April 8th, call the regular council meeting to order. Afternoon, everyone. First up on our agenda is always the agenda itself. Need a motion to adopt the agenda as presented, please. Councillor Reid.
I'll also move the adoption of the agenda as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor? Carries, thank you. And the same goes for the meetings of our previous minutes, the minutes of our previous meetings. That backwards. Dyslexic today. Councillor Flowers, thank you.
I move to accept the minutes from March 25th, 2024.
Thank you. All those in favor? Carries. And we're right into bylaws. This afternoon we have 5A, Bylaw 17, 2024, Procedural Bylaw for first reading. Ms. Knight.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Further to my presentation to the Committee of the Whole last week for the procedural bylaw that is in your package this evening, as noted during that meeting, we had tried to take the processes that council has been following and ensure that the new procedural bylaw reflected those processes. From the presentation of last week, the only addition to the bylaw that is in this week's package is the delegation of council's authority to cancel council meetings being provided to the mayor, with the additional section that council has the authority to rescind that delegation at any time should they wish by resolution. If you have any clarifying questions about the bylaw itself, I'm happy to take them.
Okay, looking for a motion for first reading. Councillor Reid.
I'll move option 1 that council give first reading to bylaw 17, 2024.
Councillor McFadden, clarifying question.
Yeah, I had 2 questions. I had some concerns about authorizing the mayor to be able to cancel that. That runs contrary to the advice I was given from the Municipal Affairs Advisor. And I know I brought that up previous, and I think we were going to look into that, and I haven't actually seen anything coming back about what Municipal Affairs response is to that.
Through the mayor to the deputy mayor, I was speaking with our legal counsel, who is also assisting other municipalities in how they work through that same process. So essentially, council has the authority within the MGA to delegate certain authority to other members. Some of your authority you've delegated to the CAO. There are certain things you can't delegate. This is not one of them. So a delegation has to be completed by bylaw. So including this section in the procedural bylaw allows for council to delegate that authority to the mayor with an additional subset that they can also rescind that authority inside the bylaw itself.
Okay. And then a second thought, I know with public hearings, the way it's currently used, if you're not physically in attendance at a public hearing, you are not then able to, vote in that matter. I was wondering, with the changing of technology, since all of our public hearings are now recorded and it's more than possible for members of council to either watch those public hearings remotely or to watch them afterwards, is there a way within the MGA or to allow us to view those public hearings either like remotely or elsewhere and then still be able to participate in the process?
The MGA has not amended that section of the Act itself, and so it still is very restrictive to if you are not in attendance for the entirety of the public hearing, you are not able to participate in second and third reading. There is a section that speaks to if you attend a portion of the public hearing, then the council member can determine whether they have heard enough of what was happening at the public hearing to be able to participate. But until the MGA allows for remote and or viewing after the fact, we cannot put that provision in the procedural bylaw itself.
Okay. And one of the changes, certainly during COVID, we were able to, use technology to allow for, remote council meetings. And so I think we certainly have the ability for, if a councillor is sick or whatever legitimate reason might there be, to be able to call in and participate to a meeting. Would that be allowed in this procedural bylaw, or could we look at that?
In this current procedural bylaw, there is no allowance for a hybrid version of a meeting. If the entirety of council is electronic, then the meeting would fall within those provisions. What we have found out is our call-in ability has been removed somehow, and some additional changes that have happened within the technology in the backside of council chambers. So the telephone does not work. You can be heard, but you can't hear what's happening in the space. There is very problematic tech that would allow for any kind of hybrid, so you would be either behind. The Act actually says you have to be somewhere where you can see the entirety of council to be able to engage, even in a hybrid sense, where we could do it through a Teams. The ability for council members to see the rest of council is zero. You would see the presenter, you would see the presentation, you would not have the ability to see council. And the streaming is, as I noted last week, it's about a 45-second delay from what happens live in these chambers to what is seen by the residents who are watching the streaming on our website. And that delay is significant when you are trying to interact with council and have questions answered.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, in old technology style, we were able to call in previous years and to do that. So it might be something that maybe we should, if my colleagues are interested, look at it some other time. But thank you. Those are kind of the questions I had.
I also think there needs to be some updates to the MGA. When they updated the Act to respond to COVID, it changed some of the requirements for remote participation that assisted during that time where everybody was fully remote, but is problematic in this time where we're looking to have one member potentially coming in virtually. An update to Chambers technology would certainly assist with that. And I know that council will be looking at that this year at some point when that information comes forward for your consideration.
Okay. So I know in this year's budget, we'd made an investment in that. Would that current committed investment allow us to upgrade the technology for that?
It would. During deliberations, council had asked at the CAO to bring back the amounts and the intention on what this revision to council chambers would look like for further discussion prior to implementation. I believe that will happen this year. Those dollars were still included in the budget, and so it will, when council has that presentation from CAO or executive leadership team, you can make those decisions at that point.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, that's first reading. We have a whole lot of debate opportunity at second reading. Councillor Reid, first reading on the floor. All those in favor? Carries. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you
Knight.
very much.
5B, Bylaw 10, 2024, West Talk Land Use Amendment. And yes, thank you. Councillor Wilson, you were absent for the public hearing.
I was indeed absent 2 weeks ago for the public hearing. Unfortunately, I was very unwell at home, and so I can't sit for the next 3 items, I believe. So I'll remove myself and come knock on the door when I can come back out, please.
We'll come get you. Okay, thank you.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. This presentation is for an amendment to the Heritage Hills Area Structure Plan, the Heritage Hills Stage 2 Neighborhood Plan, and a land use amendment for the eastern portion of Heritage Hills, now being referred to as West Hawk. These files are coming forward for Council's consideration of second and third reading and adoption of the neighborhood plan amendments. So like we've been doing with a few applications recently, these are 3 separate applications and 3 separate reports in your package. However, it is easiest to present the proposed changes all together in one presentation, as they are all related. So the area subject to the application is within the eastern half of the Heritage Hills community. While the ASP and the neighborhood plan cover the broader Heritage Hills area, the changes being proposed are within the newly named West Hawk portion of the land, which is identified in the black border. The area is bounded by Highway 1A to the south, the remaining portion of Heritage Hills and 2 undeveloped acreages to the west, Township Road 262 and Rocky View County to the north, and the Ag Society lands to the east. So these applications are within the area structure plan and neighborhoods plan and land use bylaw sections of the planning policy hierarchy. Amendments are being proposed at the land use stage, and those are impacting the guiding neighborhood plan and area structure plans as well. The Heritage Hills area has been the subject of a number of planning approvals over the last 20 years. In 2005, a concept plan, as you can see up in the corner here, was adopted that included the southern half of the western portion of the community. The initial development of the community did begin under that plan. In 2014, an area structure plan was adopted that covered the entire Heritage Hills area. In 2016, the Stage 2 neighborhood plan followed, and that included all of the lands that were not included in that original 2005 concept plan. Also in 2016, land use was approved for the entire community, and that's shown in this map here, with the exception of one acreage parcel here shown in the blue that chose not to proceed with the land use amendment at that time. This slide is illustrating the current land use districts in effect on the subject West Hawk lands. There are 2 community service zone parcels shown in the lighter green, a future second half of the school site, and the second half of the existing Heritage Hills water reservoir. And then you'll see a large area zoned as parks and recreation shown in the darker green, and that is intended for future environmental reserve that would be dedicated during the subdivision process due to significant slopes in the area. And then the remainder is zoned as residential mixed district shown in the yellow. So RMX is currently the only residential district present on these lands at this time. The West Hawk area has recently been purchased by a new developer, JL Developments. And as the new developer has proceeded with further detailed engineering and design of the lands, the developer has sought to make some amendments to the land use neighborhood plan and area structure plans prior to the development commencing. So first, looking at the land use amendments being proposed, the applicant is requesting to amend approximately 4 hectares of land from RMX to RMD to facilitate medium density development in the northern portion of the plan area here. The applicant is then looking to amend 0.02 hectares from Parks and Recreation to RMX, and then reverse that, 0.02 hectares from RMX to Parks and Recreation, just to allow for a very slight adjustment in the location of a walkway between lots. That's located here. And then there's 0.19 hectares proposed to change from Parks and Rec to RMX. That's seen in this piece here and this piece here, to allow for a slight increase to the developable area of some of the RMX lots. When working through the detailed design for the lotting on these lands, the applicants noted that there were 2 areas where the lands still met the 1.8 factor of safety that was required in the neighborhood plan and could be included within the developable area. They have completed the necessary geotechnical and slope stability reporting to support including these pieces within the developable land. Sorry. So now just moving back a step in the planning policy hierarchy, amendments are also being proposed to the neighborhood plan, some to facilitate the proposed changes to the land use, and others are based on the detailed design work that has now been completed. The proposed land use concept is on the left. The currently approved land use concept is on the right. The first change is the mapping throughout the document that changes that RMX zoning shown here to the RMD parcels shown here. There were also minor changes made to the document to include an additional pipeline that has been installed within that. It was an existing pipeline right of way, but they've just added another pipeline since the neighborhood plan was adopted. The developer has also completed updates to the traffic impact assessment to support the RMD proposal, as well as to the geotechnical reporting to support those slight additions to the developable area that were included in the land use amendment. So textual amendments were made to both of those sections of the neighborhood plan. When originally contemplating the servicing for this area, it was intended that some of the stormwater would be captured within the existing storm pond in this location here, and the remainder would flow to a new storm pond located within the West Hawk lands. Through the detailed design work, it was determined that there was some challenges with pipe sizing, so now all of the stormwater is proposed to flow into the new West Hawk pond, and accordingly the storm catchment areas and associated texts have also been updated within the neighborhood plan. Additional changes include the removal of a paved pathway that was proposed on the western ridge of the ravine. So you can see that on the adopted plan slide here. The town does follow the City of Calgary specifications for grades of pathways, the maximum allowable being an 8% grade. When completing the detailed design for this area, it was determined that a pathway in that location would encounter grades ranging from 4% to 33%, and it would be exceeding the allowable 8% in at least half the length of that pathway area. So due to the grades there, but also due to the grades down into the ravine, the applicant has also proposed to change the previously adopted hard surfaced pathway material to a granular material. There were concerns with safety if the pathway was to be constructed as asphalt, and the area that would be needed for switchbacks and grading to install the pathway would be much more destructive to the slope and vegetation in the slope, including disturbing the tree stands in the ravine. Planning met with Parks and Emergency Services to discuss the pathway changes. Considering the 8% pathway grade maximum, administration understood the need to remove the pathway on the west ridge of the ravine, and instead asked that the sidewalk width on the west side of these homes here be increased from the 1.5 meter standard to 2 meters to allow increased pedestrian connectivity with that pathway being removed. Also, since council last saw this draft plan, the applicant has also agreed to increase one of the sidewalk widths on the east side as well to 2 meters to increase the quality of the pedestrian connections through the community on that side as well. Considering the slopes and disturbance needed within the ravine, administration also understood the challenges with providing paved pathways. The applicant has proposed granular trails within the ravine to lessen the ground, slope, and vegetation disturbance within the ravine. Trail standards and maintenance responsibilities will need to be determined and implemented through the approval process of the landscape drawings. Emergency Services is also consulted on areas where there's slope to ensure that there's appropriate access should fire or ambulance need to access slope areas. Again, understanding the grade of potential pathway areas, Emergency Services was accepting of the proposed situation as there are access points into the ravine area from all sides, and there is the ability to enter the ravine from the south end with fairly reasonable grades. Another change to the proposed plan was amending the walkway treatment around the school to be a 2-meter sidewalk. So again, on this slide, we have the proposed plan on the top left corner and the current neighborhood plan in the bottom right corner. The applicant has proposed updates to the high-level phasing plan to better capture JL development's intents. You can see the changes to the northeast corner of the plan area and the plan to bring these lands on sooner than what was shown in the original neighborhood plan phasing plan. Additional minor amendments being proposed in the neighborhood plan include changes to the ownership, inclusion of edge treatment options for the proposed medium density sites, proposed changes to the details of the dog park that's proposed to be located on top of that pipeline right of way. We do need the pipeline operators to agree to any amenities that would be proposed there. So we have just left standards out at this point, and we will have those approved as the landscape plans come in. So with the proposed removal of some of the RMX zoning, as well as some of the other amendments proposed, there have been some impacts to the development statistics. With the proposed change from RMX to RMD, the overall unit count would increase from 1,089 to 1,247 within the proposed plan area. So this means an increase of approximately 158 units. This would also increase the overall community density from the original 7.7 units per acre in the current neighborhood plan to 8.8 units per acre. The applicant also did a thorough review of the MR dedicated to date, as well as what is still planned to be dedicated, and determined that 15.26 of the developable area will be dedicated as municipal reserve, up from the existing neighborhood plan's 13.8. And then finally, with the addition of that one new pipeline since the adoption of the neighborhood plan, the public utility lot area also increases to 5.03% of the developable area, up from 4.7%. So the proposed changes now to the area structure plan, updates to the land use concept mapping, you can see on the screen. So this being the proposed plan with the RMX change in it, the RMD change in it. Additional minor changes that were made to the area structure plan, many are the same as the changes being proposed in the neighborhood plan, updates to the names of the landowners within the plan, an added reference to the updated slope-related technical review that was completed in 2023, information around the pipelines in the plan area, that was updated with that additional pipeline being added, updates to the population estimations based on the proposed land use amendments, updates to the storm servicing catchment areas and related storm servicing report information to capture the changes being made, and updates to the high-level phasing plan to better capture JL development's intents. And in the mapping in the area structure plan, there was an update just to the pedestrian connectivity mapping and the related text. And now looking at the policy guidance for these changes. So one policy document that does relate to these lands is the Town of Cochrane and Rocky View County Intermunicipal Development Plan. The IDP applies to lands which fall within 0.4 kilometers of the town's boundary with Rocky View County. Section 2.13 of the IDP relates to residential development and the interface between urban development and rural residential. When responding to the circulation, Rocky View County Administration noted this section of the IDP. The objectives are to assess proposed developments for compatibility with existing surrounding land uses and future servicing and transportation requirements, and to ensure that the adequate buffering is provided between proposed residential and non-residential uses. The follow-up policies include addressing compatibility with existing and future surrounding land uses, edge considerations such as parcel sizes, site design, functionality, visual separation, sound attenuation, open space alternatives, view corridors, and vegetation and building materials should be addressed to minimize interface conflicts. And finally, development of the interface lands should include measures to provide a gradual transition of development intensity, and that transitional measures are to be determined on a site-specific basis. Originally, when the applicant had first come in, they did propose a residential high density and residential medium density site. When the file was circulated, Rocky View County responded by referencing the IDP and asked how that was being addressed. In addition, we did hear from a few residents, both within the county and within Heritage Hills, and those letters were in your package of the public hearing. Following the circulation period, the applicant did choose to amend the application and remove the RHD zoning and proceed with the entire area as RMD. Also, in response to circulation comments, the applicant added policy to the neighborhood plan, which is included in the proposed bundle of amendments. The further two objectives and policies in the Town of Cochrane, Rocky View County Intermunicipal Development Plan, there will be appropriate edge buffering between proposed residential development and non-residential land uses on the northern periphery of the neighborhood plan. Buffering for the transition of densities includes the Township Road 262 corridor and may include edge treatments such as developer-installed 6-foot-high screen fencing adjacent to residential development, strategically placed landscaping, and enhanced architectural details on the upper stories of medium-density development. These items would be addressed and included at both the future subdivision and development permit stages. So this table shows the difference between the RMX, the RMD, and the RHD zonings. So RMX is what is currently, currently is what is approved on those lands. A combination of RHD and RMD was what was originally proposed for those lands, and then the applicant amended the application to be only the RMD now. So looking between comparing the RMX and the RMD specifically, RMX allows for single and semi-detached homes, multi-unit dwellings with up to 8 units. RMD allows for semi-detached and multi-unit dwellings. When looking at the community-wide overall proposed number of units, the current zoning of RMX would equate to 1,089 units, corresponding to a density of 7.7 units per acre. The change to RMD would increase this to 1,247 units at 8.8 units per acre. The allowable height maximums are not significantly different between RMX and RMD at 13 meters versus 15 meters. On the ground, Built to maximums, this equates to the potential of a block of 3-story townhomes versus a potential 4-story multi-unit building. As well, the allowable maximum density under RMX is 65 units per hectare. This is exactly in the middle of the allowable density range of the RMD zoning at 35 to 95 units per hectare. So this slide is showing the northern boundary of the plan area and the surrounding lands within the county. So for context, we have Horse Creek Road over to the west, Township Road 262 to the north, Range Road 43 to the east, and then Baptist Seminary and their RV storage also to the east. There are agricultural lands across 262 from the subject area, as well as acreages to the northeast. Township Road 262 right-of-way provides an approximate 25-meter buffer to county lands, and the nearest home is approximately 105 meters from the corner of the proposed RMD site. Just for a little context, so a CFL football field is 100 meters in length. Another item to note, there is another RMD site directly west of the proposed site along 262, located here. And it's been able to achieve its density requirements through the use of semi-detached and townhome product. There was no multi-unit buildings beyond townhomes proposed there. After further discussions with Rocky View County administration, they felt that if semi-detached or townhomes were used along Township Road 262, they would consider this to meet the intent of the gradual transition of development noted in the IDP. These housing types are also included within the RMD zoning. This proposal brings increased density directly across from a school site, which will be located here, in close proximity to the regional Horse Creek Sports Park on this location here. It's accessed by and located on collector roads and is able to be serviced by transit. So this image was from the applicant's public hearing presentation. But it does show the maximum heights allowable in each of the districts in the context of the grading and the topography of the lands as they are now. So this is only conceptual. It's not identifying specifically what would be applied for on these lands, but meant to show what something built to the absolute maximums would look like. So this is looking southwest from the area of the adjacent county resident. So directly across the road from that acreage parcel, the closest parcel would be RMX zone lands. And so you can see a typical 12 meters single detached home shown there. So then moving into what would be the proposed RMX lands, this is showing what 15 meters at the maximum height would look like in comparison. And then down to 13-meter row housing, townhomes. And then they do show what they show the school gym roof at 18 meters there. So this slide is showing the same buildings, just with landscaping and pathways and such now included. So during the public hearing for the proposed amendments, 4 county residents did speak about concerns they had with the proposed amendments. And these included concerns such as Township Road 262 and the need for it to be upgraded. So the upgrade of Township Road 262 from Horse Creek Road to Range Road 43 is being tied to the first phase of subdivision within West Hawk. There was concerns about increases in traffic, and traffic will increase as the West Hawk portion of Heritage Hills develops. However, the development also brings on the upgrades to Township Road 262, as well as additional road connections. The change from RMX to RMD is not expected to increase traffic significantly further. The applicant did complete updates to the traffic impact assessment that showed the traffic expected with the proposed RMD change still allowed all roads and intersections to function within acceptable ranges. There was concerns about decreases in property values. So it's not expected that the change from RMX to RMD would impact adjacent property values in any great way, as the changes between the 2 districts are fairly minimal. Acreages do tend to retain their value quite well, and there is no direct adjacent urban development to the proposed RMD site at this time. There were also noted concerns about disruptions, lack of privacy, noise, criminal activity, safety issues. So again, it's not expected that the change from RMX to RMD would greatly increase instances of noise, safety issues, criminal activity. There are no existing adjacent homes within Heritage Hills. Therefore, any new home purchasers within the town boundary would have prior knowledge of what land uses were in place before they would buy their future homes. There's concerns about Township Road 262 being essentially the northern boundary of development for the town. And there was feelings that this did not need to be the place where 4-story multifamily buildings were placed. So understanding that the location of the gas plant will limit development to the north of Township Road 262, it is unlikely that urban style development would occur on the north side. Heritage Hills and West Hawk likely will remain as the northern town boundary in this area. However, it is also not determined that there will be 4-story buildings within the proposed RMD site. There have been discussions on a submission of a development permit application for townhomes for at least a portion of the site at this point. There was also concerns about RMX already allowing a variety of housing types, so there was no need to make the change to RMD. The allowable housing types between RMX and RMD are fairly similar, other than RMX allows for single detached and RMD allows for multi-unit dwellings. There was concerns about compatibility of land uses, and RMX housing types being more in alignment with the area and the existing land uses. So given the variety of housing types allowable and the small difference in allowable height and density in both RMX and RMD, there is not much difference between the two districts. Both districts would allow for semi-detached or townhomes, each of which could be considered as compatible housing types. There was also a note in the presentations about open space connections between the Ag Society and the Horse Creek Sports Park and what development in between might do. So the development of the entire Heritage Hills community will provide various pathways and sidewalks to provide formal connections between the Ag Society lands and the Horse Creek Sports Park, as well as the adjacent high school site on that quarter to the north. So looking where we're at right now, just to confirm where things are at, the applicants do have approval of the RMX zoning, as I showed earlier in the presentation. Stripping and grading of the lands did commence in the fall, and they have submitted a subdivision application that is pending a decision on these proposed amendments. That initial subdivision does propose to bring on the remainder of the school site, the proposed RMD site, as well as some of the RMX zoning, or RMX housing. So looking at the timelines, where we're at in the process, given the approvals already in place and the applications that have been made since, depending on this current approval process and how the applicant proposes to phase their subdivision application, you could see building permits being applied for this year, later this year, or into 2025 for portions of the land. So just looking at next steps, so we're currently at step 3, council's consideration of second and third reading. So pending council's decisions tonight, we would be looking to move forward with the first subdivision application as the next step. So in closing, administration is supportive of the proposed amendments. The change to RMD does bring the plans into compliance with the density requirements of the town's municipal development plan, as well as the CMRB growth plan. Administration is of the opinion that the mechanisms proposed by the applicant are sufficient to address concerns raised and respect the intent of the IDP's transition zone, and that administration can require these at future planning stages of the development. The differences between the RMX and RMD zoning are not that significant. 2 meters in allowable height difference, the maximum allowable density is in the middle of the allowable RMD density, and the allowable housing types are similar. Importantly, the ongoing and current development of Heritage Hills is bringing forward the much needed upgrades to Township Road 262. Town administration is including the upgrade of the full length of 262 from Horse Creek Road to Range Road 43 to the first phase of subdivision for West Hawk. The 3 groups along the south boundary of Township Road 262 will all be contributing to those upgrades. The development of these lands will also be bringing on additional road connections, the extension of Heritage Boulevard, as well as another connection to Highway 1A. Pathways, sidewalk connections, a finalized school site, and dedicated green space and open space will also form part of the development. So with that, administration is giving recommendations as shown on the screen. And then we would suggest that the voting order go as shown on screen, just to make the changes make sense from one stage to the next. So with that, we would welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you for your presentation. Mr. Krasinski, do you have anything to add, or are you just here for questions?
Through the chair, I'm just here to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Reid.
Yeah, so I'll move council's second and third reading of Bylaw 10, 2024. And I had a question. So I understood from the Candace's presentation that Rocky View County found the, found the proposed amendment changes to visual separation and gradual transition acceptable?
Through the chair, Councillor Reid, the conversations that we had with Rocky View County were that they were believed that the development of townhomes or semi-detached would be in line with what they considered an acceptable transition mode, and administration believes that additional mechanisms that are proposed, such as additional setback requirements, as well as architectural controls, as well as some additional landscaping components, could provide additional security to ensure that we are staying within the intent of the intermunicipal development plan.
And what stage would that occur?
Through the chair, Councillor Reid, that would occur both at the subdivision plan stage as well as at the development permit stage, depending on which treatment we're talking about.
And what authority does the town have to be able to hold a developer accountable to those amendment application changes as it relates to the transition and visual separation?
Through the chair, what we have is the ability of the development officer. Essentially, they're going to have to give approval at the subdivision plan phase as well as the development permit plan phase. So some of the amendments that also include specific reference to edge treatments, this would allow us to make those changes to be in alignment with the neighborhood plan direction as well as the intermunicipal development plan policy. So we'd be relying on that as our authority.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Nagel.
Thanks for the presentation. I will not be voting in favor of second or third reading of this land use bylaw amendment. I don't have any problems with anything in the broad picture changes. There's a lot of just tidying up and simple stuff. However, the major change from RMX to the RMD is an increase in maximum density that would be in the area, and I have asserted it many times that I think that we should be striving towards having a density gradient that has higher densities in the middle of the community, lower densities on the outskirts. This is the very outskirts of our boundary, directly abutting up against Rocky View County, so this is where I think we should be having our lowest density development. And in addition to that, my own personal feelings on the matter, I don't feel that this increase in density in this community is supported by the residents of Cochrane. So that is my position.
Councillor Padeco.
Thank you. I had one question. I'm just wondering about the school site, and this is something that I think perhaps council could use a little bit of an explanation on. If we choose to keep it at RMX, how does it affect this plan going forward, and what kind of delays might the school site be facing if we decide to turn it down?
Through the chair, Councillor Padeco, there would be some delay to the timing of the school site, as the developer would need to pursue updates to the existing, some of the studies in the neighborhood plan, area structure plan, as well as in the land use amendment. But the delay is likely a few months.
Okay, so only a few months. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Flowers.
Thank you for all the information. Just a few comments that I think we didn't hear from any Cochrane residents that they're against this proposal. I know our Rocky View County neighbors aren't very happy with it, and we do care about them. But as far as the meeting part way and medium density versus the high density, I think it's a great compromise. I sure wouldn't want to slow the school down, and it's close to the bus areas and everything that's needed in that community. So I am in favor of moving forward with it.
Councillor McFadden.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. I also appreciate kind of the response to the various concerns that were heard as well. So when I'm looking at this, I was trying to balance off two principles essentially, that, you know, we've committed to being good neighbors with our Rocky View County neighbors. And a lot of the concerns I heard was, you know, how do we mitigate that edge? How do we make sure that, you know, it's as compatible as possible? What the impacts of the 262 and the traffic. I don't particularly, I think there was a little bit of sight lines, but some shadowing concerns. But I think all of those from my end were responded to. So balancing off that need to be a good neighbor and committing to our neighbors, but also the need that we clearly have for a diversity in our housing stock. Our rental costs are astronomical right now. It's hard for people to find rental pieces. No guarantee that this is part of that. But also the cost to purchase housing of anything. So we really do need to increase the diversity in our housing as quickly as we can. And I feel that the location of these next to the school, next to a rec center, allows for a lot of that you know, that walkability, that walkable community piece that I think we're all in favor of. And so that's what I've been trying to balance off, is that being a good neighbor, the roadway piece, but the fact that we really do need as much of this multi-unit development, this diversity of housing stock as we can get. And so I really do appreciate the fact that we managed to work and reduce the density. I think we did respond to that. A lot of the examples I saw around mitigating those edges, whether through the landscaping and the building form, those type of responses, I thought were well done. And at the end of the day, that the height differential of, I think it was 2 meters, I really feel is probably a minimal impact. So I think overall this is a win for our community, and it certainly has my support because it's helping us deal with our housing needs. So it has my support.
Okay, I guess that leaves me. Couple concerns, I guess. I think, and it was addressed well at the public hearing, that initially, and tonight in the presentation, that initially this was proposed as high density, and now the shift to medium density on the 4.04 acres is as Councillor McFadden has outlined, a bit of a middle ground, meet in the middle, or maybe that was you, Councillor Flowers. The 13 meters, and maybe Mr. Krasinski, if you could verify for me if over 13 meters in the medium density, then the setbacks are more, like it's discretionary to go to 15?
Through the mayor, Mayor Chinong.
Yeah.
Once we go to 15 meters, then administration has the ability to request additional setbacks. It's not prescribed the specific amount of setback area, but yes, anything over 13 meters has an increased setback.
And that potentially could be part of what you were addressing with Councillor Reid's concerns around additional buffering, but so that additional setback would be included in that?
That is correct. That's one of the treatments available to administration. Okay,
thank you. The minimum densities that we keep talking about, as it sits now, the land use would provide 7.7 units per acre or hectare versus the 8.8 that the proposal facilitates. What happens if council turns this down? Does the 7.7 just occur, or are we going to hear from an external party? We're not in compliance with our own MDP. Is there any restrictions there, or any kind of feedback we would get negatively?
Through the mayor. There is no specific negative implication on it other than us not aligning with our own specific policy. I think it is incumbent on ourselves to try to align with our target under the municipal development plan, but even with the Calgary Metropolitan Regional Board, there's no requirement for us to submit this through them for review and approval. And
that's where I was going. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then lastly, the medium density zoning allows for the inclusion of commercial, if as a possibility?
Yes, that is a possibility and a discretionary use.
And that would have to go through administration or potentially CPC?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. So for those reasons, I'll be voting in favor. one of the, I had no issues with the minor shifts in land use. I haven't heard any from anyone around the table. The paved trail to gravel, I see the utility in that with the grading, et cetera. And for many of the reasons that my colleagues have outlined, but for me, the adjacency to the school site and the future high school site, this increased density in this one particular area, that coupled with the missing housing types that Councillor McFadden has referenced, are really the reasons I'll be supporting the bylaw on second reading tonight. Any further comments from council at this time? No? Okay, I will call the question. All those in favor of second reading? Those opposed? Okay, that carries. We'll carry on with third reading. Councillor Reid?
Council accept third reading of bylaw 1024.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? That also carries. So that is 5A. 5B would be number 2 on the screen. So 5C, we need area structure plan amendment now. And there's no presentation. I think Ms. Bannock gave the presentation for all 3 of these agenda items, so council will be looking for a motion. Councillor Reid?
If I understand what we're doing then, a bylaw 0924?
Yes.
Heritage Hills Area
Yeah,
Structure Plan?
5C, sorry.
Okay, I'll
Agenda item
move,
5C.
is that first
Second
reading?
reading.
Second reading, sorry, second reading of that.
Okay. Council, any discussion on second reading? Seeing any, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? Councillor Reid, do you wish to carry on with third reading?
Move third reading of bylaw 0924.
All those in favor of that motion? Opposed? That carries. And now we will move to 6A, Heritage Hills Stage 2 Neighborhood Plan. And we need a motion to accept the adopted or amended neighborhood plan. Councillor McFadden, thank you. No debate on that one. Okay. All those in favor of that? And opposed? And that carries. So that is 5B, C, and 6A. And we would, that takes us to our river access study, but we need to get Councillor Wilson. Thank you. Welcome back, Councillor Wilson. Thank you. We are transitioning to 6B. We've got Ms. DeLorme at the podium, and we're going to be discussing a river access study. Take it away.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. On March 18th, I presented an update on the Parks, Recreation and Culture Master Plan, the Connectivity Plan, and the Bow River Strategy. During that presentation, I had indicated the importance of the river access study in informing the Bow River Strategy. This evening, administration is bringing forward a recommendation allocating $40,000 from the General Operating Reserve to complete this study in 2024, moving it from the capital 2025 budget to the operational 2024 budget. The Bow River Corridor is a vital part of our ecosystem, offering recreational opportunities and providing a home to diverse flora and fauna. Additionally, the Bow River serves as a focal point for recreation, drawing in residents and visitors alike, enriching our community's lifestyle and fostering economic growth. The Bow River study will be an essential tool for environmental assessment, evaluating current river access points and their compatibility with potential development or restoration projects. Without this study, we risk not identifying ecological impacts and opportunities for responsible recreation development. In conclusion, investing in the river access study will lay a strong foundation for successfully implementing the Bow River strategy, driven by principles of environmental stewardship and community enrichment. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you for your presentation. Councillor Flowers, lead us off.
Just a question about, was the video last week related to this at all, or was it strictly the Glenbow path?
Through the chair to Councillor Flowers, the video was for the Glenbow pathway.
Strictly. Thank you. I will make the motion to move the funding into this year's for the study, and I think the river access is really important. How will the community give input into that?
Through the chair to Councillor Flowers, through the process of all of the different plans that we're doing, we're going to be designing community engagement for the fall of this year. This river access study doesn't include any sort of community engagement, but the Bow River strategy will include community engagement. So the river access study is more of an environmental assessment, making sure that we're responsibly recreating in certain areas, and if there's areas that we need to be ensuring that the riparian zone is being protected, then this study will help us identify that.
Okay, the outcome of that will be very interesting. Thank you.
So just to clarify, Councillor Flowers, you're moving council direct administration utilize the 40,000 from general operating reserve to complete the study?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Reid?
Yeah. Just wanted to add my support to this as well. I thought you nailed it in the cow presentation you did on this, even if it didn't include the video. But I think this is, as Councillor Flowers has indicated, this is really an important study we need to do, and I'm glad that we're moving it up to year, and so I'm happy to support it.
Thank you.
Councillor Nagel?
I was just wondering if the scope of this study at all includes any potential consideration for wildlife corridors. I think we have a pretty active deer population in Cochrane that seems to be going to the river quite regularly. Is there any study or thought going on relating to that?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Nagel, part of this study will be looking at all of the wildlife along the corridor. So from the east to west border of Cochrane, following the river, any wildlife, any flora and fauna are all being taken into consideration.
Perfect, thank you. Happy to support this.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. So this is restricted to just the Bow River, or does it also, so wait, can we expand it to be looking at like the Jumping Pound and all the tributaries, the way the Horse Creek, or sorry, the Big Hill Springs Creek comes into town, Millennial Creek? Should we be incorporating those as well?
Through the chair to Councillor McFadden, the current budget is allocated for just the Bow River corridor. If we wanted to add any of the other additional waterways, then we would have to look at it adding a budget.
I would be interested in looking at that as well. It's just, I really appreciate what we're doing with our kind of our recreation and parks planning right now. We're like investing heavily and making sure that we're getting all of the information done at one time. And I think I'd like to continue that theme. And so I certainly support this, but I think it would be great to actually get understanding of what it would cost to look at the other tributaries as well, and incorporate those into the study if that's possible. So I don't know if that means that we would, postpone that until it's added, or if we can pass this as is and then look at bringing in the tributary study after. I'm not too sure what the best way to deal with it is.
Looks like Ms. Lowe has a comment.
Yeah, given the scope of the overall project that this is being pulled into and the amount of time and the time frame that will be involved, certainly any of the tributaries that feed into the Bow will come into play as they investigate this area. It would be my suggestion that it could come forward as a 2025 budget request to expand to the tributaries so that we can get the work underway that this particular component of it is involved with.
Because it is a multi-year plan, because we're keeping you busy for years on park planning. Excellent. Yeah, that's an acceptable solution to me. As this is, I certainly support utilizing the 40,000 from the general operating reserves to support the river access study for this year. And then, yeah, we look forward to having a conversation with council about how we can expand that to make sure we honor the tributaries as well.
Sounds great, thank you.
Okay. Happy to support this motion as well. I don't see any other comments. I'll call the question. All those in favor of the river access study? Carried.
Thank
None
you.
opposed. Thank you, Ms. Delorme. Moving to 6C, FireSmart grant application. Tonight we have Chief Polly with us. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor and Council, Deputy Mayor. It's my great pleasure to provide you with an update on the current status of the Forest Resource Improvement Association of Alberta, FRIA, and the current status of our Community FireSmart grant program, and present you tonight with another new opportunity for grant funding through a request for proposal application for your consideration. As a background, in 2018 and 2019, Cochrane received grant funding of $35,000 from FRIA to complete both a wildfire mitigation strategy and the wildland fire hazard reduction prescription plans. And as attached to the several hundred pages is attached to your council package for tonight for your review again. These two reports have prioritized our risk and hazard reduction programs and priorities. And the goals of our program are to establish community awareness and education initiatives, and then also create fuel reduction activities such as the development of fuel breaks, thinning and pruning, vegetation removal, reduction, and conversion to a more fire-resistant species. As you recall, on September 11th, 2023, I was here seeking support for a $149,610 grant, to be specific, request for proposal. Administration is pleased to announce that the phase 1 of this free application was approved, and administration is currently working through the functions of the grant. We haven't started the work on the landscape yet. We're currently working through the administration functions, and we'll be working over the next several months to work through our community engagement and discussion opportunities for our community engagement, which was loudly heard from you at the last question period, to ensure that we were out there talking about what we're talking about. As a refresh, the zones that we're looking at are identified in the two circles in the communities of West Valley and Bow Ridge, Crawford Ranch, and over in Precedent. And these priorities for this grant aligned with our strategic plan foundations of financial and environmental stewardship and the aspirations of open spaces and natural areas. Recently, the administration applied to FRIA for an expression of interest for request for proposal, which was completed and submitted. We were successful in moving forward with our application to a request for proposal, which is generally a very good sign from this FRIA organization that we met the needs. They have some further questions that we'd like to answer for them. But this new grant application is to take on the next priority zones titled Units 10 and 11 in the historic Cochrane Ranch, and Units 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 surrounding the community of Cochrane Heights. Currently, the work was re-estimated in 2024 values to be $115,560. We're also looking to add one additional treatment based on community outreach for land adjacent to the lofts on the Bow, which is the smaller circle indicated on the map. These projects were chosen due to the type of vegetation and the risk to the public defined in the 2018-19 reports. If successful in the grant application, the identified work is expected to take approximately 30 days and is planned to be scheduled during the winter months to allow for pile and burn where a chipper is unable to be placed in mulching, which is similar to the previous work application. This application has also included 1,200 new aspen seedlings to be planted through the area to improve the forest ecology, health, and species diversity in the area. If the grant applied for is intended to cover 100% of the costs of the project, if 100% of the funding is not received, then the project will be reassessed through a hazard assessment. So we won't be expending our citizens' tax collection for this particular project. Administration is seeking that council support the FRIA Wildland Urban Interface Vegetation Management Fuel Reduction Project identified in your report through a motion in support so the RFP can be submitted before May the 6th. and it would be my pleasure to answer any questions that you may have this evening.
Thank you, Chief. The presentation, Councillor Reid.
Yeah, I'll move option 1, that council support the FIRA, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Wildland Urban Interface Vegetation Management Fuel Reduction Project. It's quite a handle. And Chief, I have 4 questions and 2 comments. I forewarned you that I'd be coming. Right?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
What is the probability of success in terms of being able to get that grant? Like if you were to put a percentage on it, what would you say that might be?
High.
Okay, so like 80%?
Yes, sorry, through the chair to Councillor Reid. Yes, of course, high. Through the process that we've had a consultant assist us, a local business, CCI, is a local forest business that's been very successful in supporting the town's application for these grants. The work that we have undertaken in the first phase is looked at very favorably by FRIA. That would be my estimation of it. And certainly us moving on from the expression of interest into the request for proposal is a very positive sign that they're interested in seeing this work actually happen on the landscape. There is also the part I didn't mention in the report is, again, the tie back into the Stoney First Nation and our continued work with that fire break that was installed in the far east side of the nation and aligns with the boundary of the town.
Yeah, thank you. And I kind of agree with you. I think having given the first grant, you would think this organization would then go on to support the second one. My second question is, no doubt, as identified on page 9, that the community communication and involvement is critical. But with thinking about limited resources and in the world of good, better, best, again, you mentioned on page 6, first paragraph, the second and third line, that the west side of the town is of great concern due to large areas of grassy, undeveloped private land. And so I guess my question is, in terms of priority in the world of good, better, best, wouldn't it be best to spend time working with, as you suggested, our neighbors, Rockview County and Stoney, Dakota?
Through the chair to Councillor Reid, yes, of course, engagement with our community is important. We have undertaken community discussions with the fire chief in Rockview County, the director of emergency management on the Stoney First Nation. We've worked with them, and Alberta Forestry, Agriculture and Forestry. Right. So we do have support that we are moving in a progressive way, and they are happy with the priorities that we've identified.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is, well, I think community engagement and education is important. I think if you were a limited resource, I would suggest personally that it would be our neighbors that you want to really work with. But I hear what you're saying. My third question is, on page 10, there was a reference to land use bylaws changes and the incorporation of the FireSmart principles. And I was wondering, when would that come forth? You referenced that Banff and Canmore are doing similar things. And so it'd be questions like, are bylaw changes, Drew, like, roof materials, siding, vents, openings, gutters, decks? Like, can we expect that to come forward sooner than later, or?
Yes, we are. We're actually working on the Envision document and have provided feedback onto the FireSmart building guidelines that align to other jurisdictions within the province. So we are currently working on providing that information.
I'm just wondering if Drew could answer when that might be coming back to council, if he could.
Well, and certainly we'd work with Chief Boley, and then we're doing our annual review of the land use bylaw, and we can make further amendments. So I don't have a schedule right handy in terms of when that would next be coming, but we are doing that annually. So again, I think it's that synergies between our departments that we can ensure we get the best practices in our documents moving forward.
And I love the kind of cooperation you guys have between your departments. I think that's a real strength of our community and their administration. The fourth question, if I could, on page 13, a reference to landscaping in particular, and it gives a note to FireSmart principles. And our recent presentation of council was the concern about water conservation. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if one of the things that the town might consider is providing financial incentives, some minimal financial incentives to homeowners to re-landscape their properties, to incorporate the SMART principles while also then being conscious about water conservation. Is that something that we as a council, I maybe maybe that's cutting edge, but I mean, is it something that we should be considering, right? Because then it marries the two principles of concerns that we have for our community and provide, and again, I'm just talking about a minimal financial incentive, but beyond education, it actually provides some encouragement to people to look at FireSmart principles landscaping.
I think we have a program similar to that.
So we do have some programs related to water conservation, but I hear what you're saying, Councillor Reid, specific to FireSmart principles. It's certainly something that the team can look at as to whether or not there's an opportunity for that type of incentive program if people were to switch them out, to make sure that they're switching out, whether that's lawn or whatever the case may be, to something that is a little more on the FireSmart side as opposed to some combustible materials.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it if administration would take that under consideration. Then my two comments was I wanted to be able to say I support the vegetation management priority list. I think you've nailed that perfectly. And then the last comment, which I would suggest, you know, some people think that the Fire Services Department doesn't have a sense of humor, but I note on page 7 that you refer to the word thistle as a thorn in the side of municipal land management, and I thought that was pretty funny. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Way to catch all the Easter eggs, Councillor Reid. Councillor Flowers?
Yes, thank you so much for taking the initiative on this and trying to keep our community safe and our environment safe. I didn't read it quite as thoroughly as Councillor Reid did, but my one question was around letters of support. Will we be looking for those from our neighbours?
Through the chair to Councillor Flowers, yes, that's correct. That's part of the process that FREA has enabled us to ensure that our partners are aware and supportive of the work we're doing. That's excellent. And I do think community input on this one, well, at least advising the community, is very important. The new trees that we're planting, is that because we'll be losing some old ones, or is there other reasons? That's correct. We have down, damaged, diseased, and there's a fourth one, damaged. Did I say damaged already?
Damaged, diseased, damaged, and
dead,
damaged.
And down trees. There's the 4 Ds. So we're working on, because they've reached their lifespan. So I understand aspen is like a 200-year lifespan or 100-year lifespan tree, then it turns into forest vegetation or for floor fuels. And so we're looking at doing a species conversion to bring more healthy stands back of aspen, which is more of a non-combustible tree. And then we're also planting bur oak is another one that's been recommended by our registered forest professionals about what type of trees we should be planting in our community to help with FireSmart principles. We also work with the Parks Department to ensure that what the recommendations are from the consultants are aligning with what our vision of Cochrane looks like through parks policies and systems like that. Good news. I look forward to the outcome. I'm very much in favor. Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Badeko?
Thank you. Yeah, I can't imagine not supporting this. I think we all know the risk of what could be coming this summer and for summers to come yet. Just curious though, if the whole entire amount wasn't, of funding wasn't received, will council hear back as to what your next assessment would look like? Would you come back to present to council, or it would just be an update? Or
through the chair to Councillor Fedeko, that's correct. We would come back to council.
Okay, I don't see any other lights on. Chief, happy to support. Excellent work. As Councillor Fedeko outlined, I don't know why we wouldn't. Makes perfect sense, and as Councillor Flowers outlined well, I look forward to the outcomes. So thank you for your presentation tonight.
Thank you.
I'll call the question. All those in favor? That carries unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on in our agenda to Mayor's Report. Few things. Everybody likely heard the outcome of Craft Hockeyville. Just wanted to give a shout out to our folks at the Rec Center for organizing the submission to Craft for that in the first place. And it was really cool to see our community rally over those 2 weeks and see everybody in jerseys, council included, last week, and just the camaraderie, the good news, and all of that. So hats off to SLS Center's organizing committee there. On that note, good segue into SLS Center at our last board meeting. Just a few things for council to be aware of. The memberships continue to rise from last year, but everything's on budget for this year so far. There's a spray park repair underway. I think I highlighted that late last fall. The spray park shut down due to some cracking in some pipes, but that's being rectified now. Similar situation for the hot tub. I've had a few emails about that. Just so residents know and council can share that that is being investigated and an outcome is being reached here shortly. It's not an easy repair. That's why it's taken so long. And this may not be something that anybody really wants to hear about, but they're replacing the cooling tower this year. And the only reason I bring this up is it's a 400,000 plus capital project, but I just wanted to bring that to council's attention that these repairs and maintenance things are ongoing and are scheduled and are being undertaken by the board, including turf modernization, which is coming this year, which means you may have seen some chatter about this one. The turf has reached its life and the seams are starting to separate and bubble and it's not safe. So the turf has been scheduled to be removed and replaced with a rubberized floor this year, which the high level assessment was more users could access it. There is a greater return on the investment for this floor, and all of the user groups that use that turf have been part of the conversation. And that at our last meeting we discussed how to share these types of changes in the facility to residents and users. So there'll be signage, and I referenced our planning signage around development permits of the orange signs so that people could, notice of development, notice of change of use or notice of something happening, and a QR code so people could access quickly what's happening there. So just so council's aware, the turf is being changed this year. On mid-sized city mayors, we did hire a resource. That person is, that organization is Canadian Strategies Group. That organization is known for its kind of provincial and federal intergovernmental resourcing, I guess, lobbying for short. So that is not the essential priority from the group, but really I think we're looking at this organization as being an interim executive director for mid-sized cities. So I'm looking forward to, and it's a one-year contract, so we're going to be looking at that in the fall as how successful it's been, but helping us kind of keep the lights on between meetings, and it's not going to be off the corner of someone's desk, generally mine, to keep the momentum of mid-size going. So exciting stuff there. Parks and Rec Committee meeting, I think that was last week. We talked about Envision Cochrane. It was good to see Envision Cochrane group come and access that committee, and the committee members had good insights and good conversations around that table on that. On there too, we also, and I think I brought this up at our committee of the whole, but the Glenbow Pathway Project was delivered to the committee and garnered unanimous support for the project. And we did a playground evaluation for Crawford Ranch and Bow Meadows. So that's some fine work happening at the Parks and Rec Committee. And that is my report for tonight. Councillor Reid.
Yeah, I just wanted to publicly acknowledge the mayor's contribution to the craft hockey bill. You were soon to be everywhere and doing everything for that, and it was really commendable. I don't think it should go at a loss to say that while we didn't get the $250,000, I understand we've got $25,000, thank you for that. And having to attend the the finale of that, the announcement with the mayor, it was really exciting to see the community come together for that particular event. I wanted to ask, if I could, a question about the Parks and Rec. So we've been talking for years about Horse Creek Park. I'm just wondering, do we actually own that land yet? And where is that at? Maybe Drew can help me out with that question.
Mr. Heineman?
Through the chair to Councillor Reid, we don't own that land yet. We have a meeting on Friday. We're working through that process right now, Mr. Lorman and myself, and looking to move that forward and provide council with an update later this month.
I'm a little concerned that not owning the land, that we've set an expectation in the community up that not only that we own it, but that we're far along in terms of its development, and that doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, has even the site of the school been decided yet?
We are working through those details with the Rocky View schools right now. They had the original site that, based on some of the conversations, they decided to move the school site. So that's some of the challenges that we're working through right now.
And maybe this is an unfair question at your inappropriate time, but I'm wondering, like we've seen several iterations of diagrams of that. Are we spending a lot of money on something we don't own and don't know enough about to be able to make informed decisions?
I think there are certainly learnings through this experience and the journey we've been on, but I would say that we're in a good position. We'll have a report back before you and a clear path forward in terms of how to deliver this project. We had, during the budget process, I had shared with council that our vision was to have the grading completed this year, with the idea that fields would be ready in 2025. Obviously, with some of the challenges in not owning the site and having the confirmed location of the school has put that at risk. So again, we'll have a comprehensive update here later this month, where Mr. Lorman and myself will have an opportunity to provide you additional information.
Can I have one additional question? Like, maybe the privy of this is not necessarily, shouldn't necessarily be housed with Park and Recreation Committee. Maybe this is something that should be separate from that, because there's the school division that's involved, there's, you know, the ownership issue of land. I mean, this is well beyond, I would think, the mandate of that Park and Rec Committee. I'm just wondering if there should be some other kind of vehicle to be able to deal with that.
If I may, Councillor Reid, I think you're mistaken in what the jurisdiction is there. Yeah. Administration's working with Rocky View School Division.
Right.
Parks and Rec Committee, as far as I'm concerned, and Councillor McFadden has long been there longer than I have, but the iterations or the final use will come back for recommendation by that committee. They're not driving or controlling this
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Flowers?
I just wanted to add that I attended Seniors on the Bow for their annual general meeting.
Oh, nice.
And they had a great turnout on a snowy day. Those seniors are very resilient. And they've got more members, and they've got more programs, more plans, more staff. So they're doing as much fundraising as they can, and they're just really out there filling up the place.
Nice. Councillor Wilson?
2 updates on my mind. The budget task force met last week. I forget the day now, but it's about to come back to council, is my understanding, with a list of deliverables where we've got to. And I just wanted to update council that they can expect that soon. I wasn't clear on if it'll be a committee of the whole or a council update, but one or the other, one way or another, we'll hear from that task force soon. And I missed our previous meeting. I was able to watch it streamed, however, and I noticed that several talked about the strategic session we had just before that last meeting, and I just wanted to also communicate my enthusiasm from that the list of things coming for over the last 18-ish months of our term here and beyond excite me, and I thought there's a lot of things coming down the pipeline that's easy to get excited about, and I like the direction that we're taking as an organization. So I just wanted to throw my enthusiasm in, because I wasn't here 2 weeks ago to do it, and thank administration for the weekend we had a month ago now, or whenever that was.
Feels like a month.
It was a while ago, yeah. That's my take.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
All right, thank you, Councillor Wilson. I think that exhausts council reports. All that's left is adjournment. This meeting is terminated. Thank you.